Some of you may have been in the introductory session which I had conducted earlier, that which talked about what is data science and what are the opportunities opening up, and what would be the things that we would be covering as a part of this course. So I am happy to see some of you here, and we will right away start with the course. But maybe since this is the first session, let's spend some time on getting to know each other. It would be good if all of you briefly introduce yourself, the name, what you are doing now, and your educational background. That would help me also uh, get a feel of the composition of the batch that we have today, so that I can focus on the areas which would be more important for all of you. So let's go one by one and introduce yourself very briefly. Let's start with Reena.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Reena, I can hear you.
Yeah. My name is Reena Kumari. I done MSc IT. Then after I work in SAP HR and Oracle module for approx 2 years. And right now I am in LIC of India. Last 6 years. My job profile is marketing job as a team leader. But right now I want to change my profile so that I am here.
Great. Good to hear that, Reena.
Yeah.
Uh, Hemant.
Hi Vinay. Am I audible?
Yes, Hemant, I can hear you.
Yeah. Hi team. Um, my name is Hemant, and I have done my graduation
No, Hemant, I have lost you. Can you
bit
speak?
louder. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. So I have completed my graduation in 2016, and my branch of engineering is industrial. And after that, I've been working with Amazon as risk analyst. So right now, I want to change the domain. So that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Hemant. Prashant.
Hi all, good morning. I'm Prashant. I'm working with Capgemini. I have around 10 years of experience, and my current skill set or the domain is the IT planning or the costing, etc. Um, just wanted to use this lockdown time to have some knowledge about the data science, and yeah, who knows, maybe I'll change to this particular domain if there are opportunities inside the organization.
Thanks, Hemant. Thanks, Prashant. There is someone who is logged as whose name is showing as Redmi. So who is somebody is logged in as Redmi? If you can introduce yourself. Or let's go to Subbarao.
Hi Vinay, Subbarao. I'm done my MCA and I have experience about 17 years in ETL domain. So I just need to change my technology into data science. So that's what I'm here.
Which domain you said? UTL. What does it stand for?
ETL.
ETL. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
What about Raju Reddy? Raju, can you hear me? Rajesh, your audio is not on. Anyone else is there on the call? Hello. Anyway, sure. So we'll start the session today. This being the first session, we'll just take a quick roundup on how these sessions are going to be conducted, what is my expectation from you, and of course, you can reach out to me if whatever expectation you have, and if some of those things are not there in the course, or if you want the course to be run a bit differently, feel free to reach out to me anytime during the course. Let me introduce myself once again. My name is Vinay Kumar. My educational background is I have done my post graduation in management from IIM Ahmedabad, and prior to that, I have done my graduation with mathematics. Recently, I have been, I left my job in June this year, that is just about 1 month back. I was heading a unit in one of the IT companies, which was, and my unit was working in data science and AI and ML, and I happened to be the business head for wealth management in that particular unit. And now I want to take a full-fledged role in training people in data science and AI ML. One of the main reasons was, with some of you I have spoken earlier, is that when I was heading that unit, I realized that many people, when they join, they need a lot of training, at least ranging between 3 months to 6 months, to actually get to a stage where they can be deployed onto the real projects. And that's why my mission now is to train people in, especially in these two areas, so that they become productive for the organizations who hire them starting from day one. So our main focus in this course would be to make you become able to work on data science projects immediately after you complete the course. And therefore, my expectation is that even outside the sessions that we will have online, you should find some time to work on the assignments, the projects, and whatever we have discussed in the class. Because a lot of these things come from practice. As a part of the data science course, we'll be working on 3 tiers of learning. And the way that I run the courses, all these three will be going on simultaneously and not really sequentially. So one part is the conceptual part of data science, which is understanding the different concepts in statistics, in mathematics. The second part is the technical part of it, that is learning about the tools and techniques of data science, which will involve some level of programming, and we will use Python as the programming language. And the third part would be, and which is the most critical part, is that whatever we have learned as the concepts and whatever we have learned as techniques, how to apply them in the real life scenarios. And we will take examples from different domains, and we'll see that how those concepts can be applied. And we will be running with all of these three almost together and simultaneously. So from day one itself, you will see that I would like you to open your Python notebooks and start doing a few things. Even if you have never coded in your life earlier, that doesn't really matter. Even if you had coded a long time back and you have been a different type of role for past few years, that does not matter, because the programming part, I am sure that you will find it's not that difficult. And same goes with the concepts of statistics and mathematics. Don't get too worried about if you had not liked mathematics as a subject in your graduation or in your school. Don't worry about that. What we require is the appreciation of some of the very key components, and you don't need to worry about much, because as we start implementing the concepts, the actual work of the computation would be done by the algorithms that we will learn, the techniques that we will learn. The computers will do those things, but we should be knowing that what is happening in the background. And that's why these concepts are so important. So I'll spend again just a few minutes on why everyone is talking about data science today and what has changed. It may be a repetition for some of you who had attended my session earlier, but we'll not spend more than 4 or 5 minutes on this, and then we'll directly go into the topic of today. And it's also important to understand, because you will keep hearing about lot many different definitions of data science, what a data scientist does, what would be your uh, role if you take up an assignment as a data scientist. And so data scientist as data science as is broadly defined, and this is the most common definition that you will come across, is that it's a scientific approach to extract meaning and insight from data. Today, this fact need not be emphasized that we are surrounded with data. There is all of us are drowning in data. And as they say that today we are drowning in data, but we are thirsty for information. We are thirsty for insight. So today, over the situation had changed over the past about 15, 20 years, when we used to have a situation in the organizations, in different organizations, we used to say that we don't have enough data to make decision. Today, that situation is not there. Today, almost every organization has enough of data, but then we don't know what to do with that data, and we don't know whether that data can be used better for making more meaningful business decisions. That's what a data scientist is supposed to do. And data today is not coming just in a structured fashion. Most of us would have seen structured data in the form of the RDBMS that we would be using, or in the Excel sheets. That's also structured data. But today, a lot of data is coming in an unstructured format, because the sources of data has got diversified. Every time that we use the internet, all the clicks that we do, that's a data for the company on which of the website of which you are accessing. If you're using an app, then every action that you do is a data for, and it's a useful data for the e-commerce organization. If you are visiting that app or website for buying something. Not only that, not only humans are generating data today, but more and more the data is coming from what we call as the IoT, or the Internet of Things. Several devices that we use, for example, the Fitbit band that you wear, or today even the fridge, or many of the sensors that we have in the car, or many other devices that we use, those are producing much more data than we humans do. So the data is not just coming from internet, it's not just coming from the data that we generate, but data is also getting generated by many of the devices, many of the sensors that we use in our homes, in our offices, in our factories. in our cars. So there is a lot of data, and the data scientist is the one who helps the organizations to see that, okay, if we have access to all this data, and that data could be a structured data, the data could be an unstructured data, like the data about the clicks in the apps or the website, or data that we receive from the sensors. All these are unstructured data, or data that we receive in the form of written text or the form of the images. Those are not structured data. So we should be able to process that and make a decision. So that's what the main role that a data scientist is supposed to play. And that is what we will learn in the course, that if you have a variety of data which is coming from different sources, then how do we really, in different business context, how do we make sense of it? How do we extract patterns in that data? And how do we provide an insight to the business users so that they can make more meaningful business decision? And at the same time, we don't just analyze, as data scientists, we don't just analyze the past data, but one of the main purpose of analysis of the past data is that can we find the pattern and make a prediction for future? That is also one of the key aspects of data science process. And how do we do it? We do it with the use of statistics, and that helps us make the inferences from the data and help us make the prediction. We also will learn tools of data visualization, that once we have got our findings, then how do we really present it to the respective stakeholders, to our seniors, to our customers, to our project managers, to the business users, to the domain people along with whom we work. So not just deriving the inferences, not just making the prediction, not just finding the pattern, but also how do we really present it? And that's where the data visualization comes in. But to be able to do that, we will have to design our, what we will use the term experiment. That is, we need to design and see that how the what would be the process of making the prediction, what would be the process of deriving the inferences. So we will learn the entire process of how do we go about starting from gathering the data, to creating the model, to making the prediction, to visualizing it, to presenting. So the entire life cycle we will learn about it. And as a data scientist, you should be knowing about the complete life cycle of data science. And that's what we will also take up as some of the assignments, some of the projects as we go along. And I talked about not just getting the insight, but also being able to communicate that. So broadly, if you see data mining, people will talk about that three main things that data science would be doing is data mining, uh, machine learning, which helps us make the predictions, and dealing with big data, which we'll handle towards the end of the project. That how if the data size is really large, very large, going into gigabytes and terabytes, what are the new tools which have become available to us? So that's what we will be covering in the course. I would not repeat some of these things again. Many of you are already knowing about it, and that's why you have got interested in data science, that how data science can be used today in almost every domain that you can think of, starting from logistics to agriculture to sports to governance. And some of these things, some of the things for which data science is being used, the range is so wide today that you go to any organization, you will find that data science has an use. So either people are already using it, or at least they have created a plan that how to use the data better. Data science is today being used by the matrimonial sites to find out a better match for the people who have registered themselves for finding a match for themselves. It is being used by the e-commerce organizations like Amazon to predict which could be the other areas or other items of interest for the buyer based on their buying behavior, buying pattern, demographics, what they have bought earlier, and so on. It is being used by the political parties to identify that who are the people who are likely to vote for me, and therefore create a message which will be able to influence their behavior in voting in their favor. So many of the messages that you receive on the social media through WhatsApp, the Facebook, many of them are actually being created by the research division or data science division of the political parties, who are designing those messages and targeting those messages at you to influence your behavior, to increase your to generate a support for the actions that they take. So there is a large data science group which is working for most of the political parties in India, as well as it works in most of the Western countries to influence the behavior of the voting population. And some of these data are also being used in a very interesting fashion. So, for example, when you enter the data about where you did your schooling from and where are you from on Facebook, the Facebook is able to generate some of the very interesting things which was not the original intent, and that's what data scientists do. Is that now Facebook can generate a very accurate pattern of the global migration. So, for example, how many people who are say born in Telangana or Andhra who are working in US, and not just US, in which parts of US? Now, Facebook can create a very good map of that because they know where you had done your schooling from. That data is available on Facebook, and they know that where you are tweeting from, that could be a location maybe in US or in Delhi, and that's how they can create a very good pattern of that how the migration have happened out of Telangana or out of Andhra, or for that matter out of India or out of China, and where how people have moved across the globe, and that kind of uh, data can be generated by Facebook, which was not really the original intention when they asked you to enter that where you were born, where do you do your schooling or education, and so on. And similarly, with the use of data, now Google does a prediction of where an outbreak of flu is likely to happen even before the local authorities know there, because the moment you see that there are a lot many queries about a flu or a particular disease or a particular item which is linked to outbreak of a disease, then it can be derived that maybe that area is getting affected by an outbreak of flu or outbreak of some other disease. So some of these things are, I have taken a few examples from diverse areas. The point I'm trying to emphasize is that data science has now become very pervasive in the sense that no organization today can think of competing with other organizations unless they are using the data that they get from their customers, from their vendors, from the competition. Unless they are making a good use of their data, they will lose a lot of information which can be derived for becoming more competitive, for becoming more profitable in the world today. But why are we talking about data science today? Why it was not a hot topic a few years back or maybe a 5 years back? This was because, first of all, data is becoming available at a very fast pace. As you can see that the data that is getting generated is increasing exponentially. And at the same time, the computing power is also getting faster and faster and cheaper and cheaper. So it's becoming affordable for the organizations to acquire large computing power. They don't even have to buy machines today. It is available on the internet. So we can do the computing on the cloud. So on the one hand, we have large amount of data available. On the other hand, the computing power has become uh, cheaper and more affordable. And the third factor is that many of these algorithms that we will be using in data science, especially which is coming from the world of artificial intelligence and machine learning, those algorithms have got refined substantially around 2010 or so. So that is the time when the deep learning actually became a general process which could be used in machine learning. And many of the things that we do today, and as we go along, we'll also do a few things on machine learning, on deep learning, neural networks. The algorithms with which the neural networks are refined, these are just about 10 years old. And that has given a lot of efficiency in different types of predictive analysis that we do. And that is the third factor which has made the data science actually very widely used and much more accurate and much more useful. So the combination of these factors, coming together of these three forces, has happened only recently, and as recent as just about 10 years back, the algorithms became more powerful, and the computing power and the big data is increasing at a very fast pace even today. And that's why data science has become all pervasive, and that's why data science is possible for most of the organizations to handle. So now we will go into what the data scientists do, and that's where, so having understood what data science is and what you are supposed to do, let's see the processes that we'll be following and the areas that you will have to focus on. And so a framework was designed by 5 organizations in Europe, and that framework is called a CRISPR framework. So very widely, this framework would be used. This framework is nothing but it says that what are the steps that you need to follow in the process of data mining. And that's why it is called the CRISPR data mining framework. And the full form of that is the cross-industry standard process for data mining. And what are those standard processes? That you should be understanding the business requirement. You should be understanding the data which is available in the business. Then after you have the understanding of the business and the data, then you go about preparing the data. And why data preparation is required? Because all the data will not be available to you in a structured format, first of all. So you need to give a structure to data in many cases. And even if data is available in a structured format, different parts of your organization will be capturing data about a part of the data and not the complete data. So as a data scientist, along with your team, you should be able to assemble and create a holistic view of data. So that's the data preparation part. And after that, you do the modeling to find out the patterns in the data to make the predictions. And then we do the evaluation that whether my model is working well or not, and what are the changes that we need to do to the model to get a better prediction. And then after that, deployment of that model in production for the use of the business in the real time. So these are all the steps that we will be taking you through as we go into the projects and the assignments. You will see that all these things would be important for you, but it is a good framework to start with, that as a data scientist, you will see that not just the data part of it, but also the business part of it. Understanding the context of the business is also very important for the data science. What are the things that you would be doing? Again, so while the analytics is going to be the key part of your job, the other things that you need to get familiar with and you would be working with is you would have to understand the data processing infrastructure that your organization has, whether you are, what kind of servers you have, what kind of capabilities you have, whether if you are working on, if your organization is working on the cloud, how do you access data? So you need to understand the infrastructure. You need to understand the data management process. Then visualization, we have talked about, presentation of the data. And you would also have to deal with not just the analysis of data, but you'll have to work with the other members in the team to ensure that there is a data privacy, there is data protection, but your main job is going to be on the deep analytics. And that is going to come from the different techniques that we learn. Some of these things are coming from the world of statistics, and then we will also deploy or learn how to use machine learning and artificial intelligence for analytics of data and for making predictions. So it will be a good combination of the traditional or the classical methods of data analytics and also the modern methods, which are the machine learning and the artificial intelligence. So as I mentioned that you would be hearing about different types of terms, and now it's important that we see the differences between different terms being used and what is the specific focus area of each of these roles that you will come across in the organization. So while data scientist role we have talked about that they also their job cuts across data mining, data analysis, machine learning, making prediction, dealing with big data. So that's the overarching role that data scientists would do. But you will also come across different other roles in the organization, which is where data word would be coming. So it's time that we clarify ourselves that what would be the focus of a person who is doing data science and somebody who comes with a very similar other nomenclature or a role. So data mining and data science, the difference between the main differences between the two is the data mining deals with the structured data. I mean, most of the work that a person who says that I'm doing data mining, they are doing with the structured data. But where the data scientists become different from data mining is that they would also deal with a lot of unstructured data. While the data mining is finding the pattern and analytics, data scientist not just finds the pattern, but one of his key role is to make prediction. So while data mining is looking mostly into the past, data scientist role is also to look into the future. Then you will come across the roles as data analyst. So data analyst is a kind of a junior role in the data science department, where they would be focusing on the different processes in the data analysis. So for example, how to query a database, how to fetch information, how to fetch the data from different sources that you have in the organization and merge them, and also how to visualize the data. So data scientists are more process oriented, and if you are working as a data scientist, then you would be having a few people in your team who would be working as data analyst, or maybe you may start as in a role of data analyst and then you may graduate to a role of data scientist. Then you will come across a terminology called data architect. So these are the people who are actually creating more of a blueprint for, they would be focusing on the blueprint for data model, how to integrate the data that you have in one department of the organization with the another department of the organization, or data that you receive from the vendors or from the external world. The what kind of ETL tools would be used and how they can be optimized. They will also be working on the warehousing of data. So again, collating the data that different divisions of the organization have, data security and so on. So there is more of an architect kind of role. Then you will also come across a term data engineer. Data engineers are more concerned, or they would be focused in a focused manner. They would be working on how to make the database scalable in the organization that you work, how to make the database more efficient, and they will also work on the ETL tools. Then you will come across the database administrator. So those are the people who are more concerned with administering the database, and that includes who has the permission and what kind of permission to the database, which part of the database you will have the access to, who can only view, who can download, who can modify, and which part of the data. So those permissions they will be doing, and then certain other regular activities like taking the data backup, recovery of data if there is a failure, and data modeling also they do. These are the different types of roles you will come across. And as you will see that the role of data scientist is much wider. And that's what you see on the diagram on the right side. And I like this diagram. You will see many different diagrams on the internet as to what the data science is. But as you can see here that there are four main components of data science as a profession. You need to understand the business in which you are going to deploy the data science. And that also we saw in the CRISPR framework, that the business understanding is very important. So as a data scientist, whatever organization you join, you should be looking to understand what is important for the business, how the business is run, so that you are able to deploy the data science techniques in a much more contextualized fashion, in a much more useful fashion. Second part, we talked about that you need to know about the tools and techniques, which will broadly here it is being called as programming, but that would include learning the Python as a platform, learning about the different techniques in machine learning to be able to make predictions. And of course, you need to have the understanding of some of the concepts of statistics. And last part, which becomes very important in the success of anyone in data science department, is how well you communicate your findings to different stakeholders. And when we say different stakeholders, the stakeholder could be your customer, the stakeholder could be your senior management, the stakeholder could be your project manager, the stakeholder could be your business users. And that is a very important part of data scientists. And that's where you see that in the center where all the four intersect, that is what a perfect data scientist is. Now, if you see here, there is something called, Drew Conway's data scientist. So the difference between him and the perfect data scientist is communication. So if you do everything else, but if you are not communicating well, then you become like a data scientist that you see in many of the movies, that these guys are only working on the computers, but they are not very good in communication. So that is the kind of profile that you will see in many of the English movies, that how the data scientists actually work. They will be always engrossed on their machines. But that's not what will make you successful. You also have to combine that with the communication part. Any questions so far? From anyone? Any question?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, hi Vinay. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Is there any lock for this meeting? Because other people are joining. They're getting a screen like, Vinay Kumar will enter you into, like, meeting host will let you in soon, like that.
Normally that prompt comes on my screen, but just let me see if there is. Yeah, there is one person waiting, Rishabh Prasad. I will admit him. I just, normally it should not ask me. I may have done.
Pressure join. Yeah, because other 3-4 people also they're waiting for this, but I'll call back them again. Yeah.
Yeah. So normally the prompt comes on my screen if somebody has logged in. Anyway, I'll keep it in the bottom somewhere, so that if somebody
You can talk to Rishabh just for 2 minutes and you can start exact session.
Yeah. Hi Rishabh, I am sorry I kept you waiting. If you can just introduce yourself to me and to the other team members.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Rishabh. I am currently working with OU Room as area supply manager. I did my MBA and BTech both, and I'm currently looking for domain change. So I joined this data science class.
Thanks, Rishabh.
Okay, sir.
Aditya, you can ask others to log in again. I'll change the settings so that it doesn't really ask for any permission.
Okay, I'm doing that. You can continue the class meanwhile. Yeah.
Okay. So until now, what we have seen was more or less giving you a framework in which you will be working and kind of things that you would be expected to do in the organization, and what are the things that we will be learning during the course which will prepare you to be ready for doing that kind of work in any of the organization that you may join in future. But the crux of the entire data science, as I see, is developing a computational thinking. And the computational thinking is a way of thinking where we see that how the computational power, how the data can be used to understand the world that we live in. So data science or different techniques that we would use is not a pure science in the sense that it's not really an area of pure research. It has to relate to the world that we work in. So for example, if data science is being used in um, an e-commerce organization, it should be related to the world of the e-commerce. If you're using data science for in a meteorology department which makes the predictions about weather, it has to relate to that world. So just keep at the back of the mind that what our focus in data science course here would be over the next 2 months is to develop or enhance our ability to what is called as the computational thinking. And what does it mean is that how to really use the area of computation or the process of computation or the way that the computers work or way that the data works or way that we combine the computation and data to make sense of the different businesses, different areas, and how do we really prepare a data, how do we prepare our models in a way that computers are able to work with that more efficiently. So our job is not to really do the computations ourselves. Our job as data scientists is going to be that how do I make the computers do the job for me? And therefore we need to understand that what kind of processes that we need to do, what kind of preparation that we need to do so that the computers can give us the result that we want. And that's what computational thinking is all about. And optimization, so we'll be working with different types of models when we talk about the computational thinking. And the three main kinds of models would be the optimization model, the mathematical models, and the third one would be the simulation model. But optimization model is one of the very key things that we will be working with. So let's start with a simple problem, and let's suppose you are working in an organization which is into travel. Now the problem statement is that your client wants to travel from Hyderabad to Delhi. What would you recommend to him? How does he travel? When does he travel? So as a data scientist, what are the things that you would be concerned with? Suppose your boss tells you that this is the problem that you're going to start working from tomorrow, that we are running a travel organization. Use your data science techniques to recommend to your customer that how he should travel from point A to point B. And here we have just taken an example that one of the customers want to travel from Hyderabad to Delhi. what kind of questions that we should ask ourselves, that to be able to respond intelligently to this client and to be able to recommend something meaningful to him, how do we make the recommendation? So what should we ask him? He has already given me the requirement that he wants to travel from Hyderabad to Delhi. Should we ask any further question, or should we delve into our own data and give him the answer that, okay, you should take this flight or this train or this, or you should go by car? What should we do? Let's hear from some of you.
First, we should ask him when he is planning to travel.
Great.
Does he have any tentative dates?
Okay. What else?
Maybe how much he wants to spend for the travel.
Great. Very good. So yes, so you would like to understand that when he wants to travel, and not just when he wants to start, when he wants to reach, that is more important, that when do you want to be in Delhi? And that would determine that what is the kind of communication mode, or what is the kind of transport that he should be taking. So suppose if he has to be in Delhi tomorrow morning for a meeting, then I can't advise him to drive down from here to Delhi, because anyway he's not going to reach. Possibly we can't even recommend to him a train journey, because trains also would not reach in time. So maybe the flight is the only option, but the second consideration is the cost. So if his budget is, say, 2,000 rupees, then obviously he can't take a flight. Maybe the flight tickets are not available in that price range. So these are the questions that we need to ask him. And then we will evaluate different options. We will evaluate. So if you see here, there is an objective. The objective is to be in Delhi. That is the objective. And then there are certain other constraints, because none of the things that we do in life, and more so in data science, will come without constraint. So the constraint here is that he needs to be in Delhi by tomorrow morning. So time is a constraint. How much time do we have at hand? That is one of the constraints. How much money he has is another constraint. So in the data science, in the optimization model, or the different types of insights that we'll build, or different types of recommendation that we prepare for the organizations or for your business, we will work with an objective function, and we'll work with constraint. So in this case, what is the objective function? The objective function is to reach Delhi, and the constraint would be the constraint of the finances that he has, that is how much he wants to spend. The constraint would be how much time he has. So every time that we want to achieve an objective, that objective will always be surrounded by a constraint. And that is what the different models that we will learn about. You will see that all these models will be focused on how to achieve the objective in the best possible manner. And these objectives will mostly be that how do we maximize our revenue, or how do we maximize our benefit, or it could be a minimization problem, where we could say that how do we minimize the cost, how do we minimize the time, how do we maximize the speed. So mostly it comes in the form of either a minimization objective or a maximization objective, but that minimization or maximization would be always subject to some constraint. And these constraints we need to understand from the business as to what are the constraints are there. And some of these constraints also would be very common sense that we need to apply. let's see this computational thinking process, and why I am going on emphasizing, and this is what I will continue to emphasize throughout the course, is that data science is not just about learning a few tools and techniques, which you will definitely learn in the course, but you will become a more successful data science, or you will be able to address the issues which come in when we apply data science to different types of business problems, is the computational thinking. That is, how do we apply these things in a given scenario? So let's see a very interesting thing here, which is called the backpack and the thief problem. So a thief has entered into a house. Now he is carrying a backpack, and obviously he can't take away everything which he finds in the house. So there are a lot many things available in the house that he sees, and he sees that the owner is not there. It's a good time for me to take away whatever I want. But the problem is that he can carry only so much of a weight, and he is having only a backpack. So he can fill that backpack only with a certain amount of goods. So now he has a problem, which is again an optimization problem. So what is the optimization problem that the thief is facing here? What would he like to maximize or minimize?
Minimize the weight or the space, maximize the value of the
So his
theft.
objective function would be to maximize the value that I take away from the home. And what would be the constraint? The constraint is that he can't take away everything. And therefore, let's assume that he can carry a weight of 20 kg, and that is what his backpack can take. So there would be a volume constraint, in the sense that backpack that he is carrying can carry only certain amount of or certain volume of things, and he can carry only a certain weight. That would be the constraint. So volume would be a constraint, and the weight would be a constraint. So given these constraints, we want to maximize the value of the things that he is going to carry. So suppose these are the things which you are seeing on your screen, is that he can see that these are things I can take away. What do you think? How should he start, and what are the things that he should start taking? Where should he begin? Should he fill first with the grain and then go to the whiskey bottles and take some clothes, or should he start with filling his backpack with gold or the statue, or there are some silver utensils? Where do you think he should start, and why?
Gold and cash.
Obviously, gold, sir.
Gold and cash.
He starts with the gold.
Okay.
Gold and cash.
So the problem looks simple, and the solution also looks simple. But if he has, say, many gold bars, then obviously he will fill with all the gold bars, and if that reaches 20 kgs, then he should just walk away with that. But if he has, say, only 4 or 5 gold bars there, and each gold bar suppose is 1 kg, then first he should fill with gold bars, then he should go to something else. Maybe next should be cash, or next should be silver. I don't know which one would be better. And that's what the problem, or this is the kind of problem that we want to solve. At the same time, it will also be linked to the, if the optimization function is only maximize the value, then of course this is fine. But the thief may have a different function that he wants to optimize, and he may say that, no, I want to take things which I like. And maybe he liked one of the suits that is hung on the hanger, or he actually likes the statue. So he says that, okay, I had enough, maybe 4 or 5 gold bars is enough for me. Let me take this statue because I am liking it. So depending upon the different objective function and the constraint, constraint will of course remain the weight and the volume, but objective function could be different. And based on that, the optimization process could also change. Now, while this is an interesting problem, that what does the thief take away? If you are a data scientist, in the back of your mind, now you say that, yes, my objective function is to maximize the value. And these are the 2 constraints which I am dealing with. So how would you really solve this problem? Now we are going with a hunch that maybe first we should take the gold, then we should take the cash. But we are not very clear that whether taking the cash would give us more value, or maybe this statue is very highly valuable. Or maybe these silver utensils, they are going to give me more value for the weight compared to the cash. Or maybe some of these whiskey bottles also, some of them are very costly. So maybe taking one of these, which is just about say 1 liter, and the market value of some of them could be as high as 40,000, 50,000 rupees. If suppose that is the kind of whiskey bottles are there, then which one to take? So if this problem is brought to you as a data scientist, then we will start putting a shape to the problem and giving an exact formulation to that, because we said that what is computational thinking? The computational thinking is about putting the data that we have into a shape which can be optimized or maximized by the machines in the best possible manner. So if we have to find out an exact solution, how shall we go about? And that is what we will explore now. So in this kind of optimization problems, you will find is that there are 2 types of problems. One is a continuous problem and one is the discrete problem. So suppose it was not the gold bars, but it was gold dust, and you have available in plenty. So all these gold bars, if you see, they have a specified weight. Suppose the just for the sake of taking the argument further, if you say that 1 gold bar is 8 kgs and you have 5 gold bars, and the maximum weight is only that he can take is only 20 kgs. So obviously he can't take more than 2 gold bars, because 8 into 2 will become 16. And if he takes 3, it will become 24 kg, which he can't take. So after taking 2 gold bars, he still have some space, but he can't take another gold bar because each gold bar is weighing 8 kgs. So he will have to go to something else. Then suppose he takes some utensils, and each of these, let's assume, is 3 kgs each. So he can take one of these, so that becomes 19 kg. So even if he is taking certain low value items, given the constraint, he will not be able to take the highest value items. So he will have to leave the gold and come to the silver utensils. He still has 1 kg left, and then he will see that I can't take this statue because that statue weighs more than 1 kg. Maybe I can fill it with cash, because cash would be, I can fill in just up to 1 kg, or I can fill that with some, in case the cash was not available, then he would say that, okay, now let me fill that with grains itself, even though that's low value, because I have still 1 kg available. I can't take the furniture, I can't take the statue, I can't take the gold, I can't take the silver, but still I have 1 kg available. So let me take the grains, because at least it is some value. And that problem is arising because what we call as the problem of discrete optimization. It means that I can take only a defined number of objects into my solution. But suppose it was not gold, it was all the gold dust or the gold grains, then I have no issue, because then I can fill up my backpack with all the gold dust or gold grain, and I don't even have to go into the issue that, okay, now after having taken 2 gold bars, I can't take a third one because I've exceed the weight by 4 kgs. So a problem like this, where you can take up as much amount as you want, and that could go into any of the fractions. That kind of optimization problem is called the problem of the continuous optimization. And you can take this simply that I can fill my bag with gold dust, or for that matter grain, as much as I want. So I can go up to even 1 gram or 2 gram, does not really matter. I can fill the entire thing without worrying about anything else. But the discrete optimization tells you that, okay, everything that you want to include in your solution has certain characteristics, like in this case, the weight. And therefore, I need to make that kind of optimization problem is a bit more difficult. So let's see, if this problem is brought to you as a data scientist, what would you do? So I will define that my objective function is to maximize value, and my constraint is the space and the weight. And let's assume that our weight is the maximum weight that we are going to carry is 20 kg. Okay. Now the question would be that how do we represent these things so that my algorithms or my machine is able to solve these problems? Okay. And we have still about 15-20 minutes, and we'll spend some time on how do we really formulate this problem using the tools and techniques that we have. And in very first session, I want you to now start working with Python and the algorithm. So don't worry right now about what I would be doing, because we will take you through the Python examples, how to work with the Python as a language in the coming courses. But in the very first session, I am introducing this because I believe that it's not very difficult to work with. And the earlier that we start working with Python and different kinds of algorithm, more freely you would be able to work with. Without hesitation, you should be able to work with. So we will be working with Colab. So if you have your computers open, maybe you can go to colab.research.google.com, and that gives you an access to the Python notebooks, and that's what we would be using because it's really accessible. And fortunately, it gives us a lot of computing power then, because by using this, we also tap into the computing power which Google provides, which will have the GPUs and the TPUs, very fast computing power that we get free of cost. So in future, we will be using Colab for all our data analytics. And Colab is an open source from Google. It is the Python notebook. So all our Python operations, all our machine learning, we will be doing with Colab. So in the beginning, whenever you start work on any of the data science assignments or projects, first we need to import the relevant libraries. Now, what are these libraries? These libraries come with certain inbuilt functions. So once we have imported the libraries, then we can start utilizing many of the mathematical or statistical or machine learning functions which are contained in those libraries. The first thing that you will do when we come to the Python notebook is to import certain libraries. What these libraries are, we will gradually learn. But the two most common ones that you would be using is called NumPy and Pandas. And when we import, we give a name to it, a short name to it. A short name is required so that we can refer to these libraries by the short names in future. And that's why we say import NumPy library as NP. When we say as NP, it means that now I can refer to this library by a short name NP going forward. And of course, you can give any name. It can be XY, it can be AB. But the tradition is that we import NumPy as NP and Pandas as PD. Okay. So having imported these libraries now we can work with different functions that they contain. What these functions are, don't worry about that right now. Right now, my objective is to show you that the backpack problem and the thief problem that we're solving, how do we formulate those problems? So what were the problem? We had 7, 8 items. Just for the sake of brevity, just to keep it short, I am calling them A, B, C, D, E. So we had 8 items. We are calling them A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we are keeping the names of the items. And then we list down what is the weight of each corresponding item. Then we take the value of each corresponding item, because we talked about the discrete function. So say, for example, 1 unit of A, the value is 5,000. 1 unit of B, the value is 10,000, and so on. And how many I have available in the house? So item A, I have 6 units available. Item B, I have 5 units available. So if this information is available, then I'll put that in a format which my algorithms will be able to understand it in a much better fashion. So we talked about computational thinking. This is what one of the key things would be there, that I have data. How do we either restructure the data, or how do we create the data so that the machines can understand better? So how would the machine understand better? We are putting each of the characteristics. The first item that we say here, that is called variables. So I am item, weight, value, numbers. These are called variables, and not just in Python, but in every programming language, you will come across the term variable. So any of you have not done programming at all in your previous lives? Or all of you do have some experience of programming? Is there anyone who has not done programming at all? Any of you? So I am assuming that all of you have done some programming. Okay, so Rishabh, you have raised your hand. So you have not done any coding earlier?
I have done during my BTech.
Oh, great. So,
but little.
Fine. So the point I was trying to drive at is that, even if you have not done at all, or even if you have done 5 years back, 10 years back, does not really matter, because you will see that the process is very simple. That's the point I was trying to make. So, and then this is called an array. So you will see that in some cases, I'll go in a structured fashion. In some cases, I'll go in a slightly unstructured fashion. And that is done on purpose, because a lot of things you will learn much faster if we just throw you inside the problem. So for example, here, without giving you the perspective of what is an array or what is an variable, how do we manipulate these, I am starting straight away, because many of these things you will learn much faster if you just jump into it and then ask the question, rather than trying to start from point A, then we go to point B, then we go to point C, because that would be a longer process. And in my experience of training people, I have seen that some of these basic concepts you are anyway able to grasp much faster as we expose it to you directly. So if you see here, I am defining a variable, that variable name, and that variable I have to give a name. That variable name is items. And you should also keep in mind that whenever we define such variables or whenever we give a name to anything in the programming language, try to give a name that you will be able to relate with, or you will be able to recognize very easily that this variable contains this kind of data. So I could have given a variable name as X. For items, I could have used X. For weight, I could have used Y. Even that would have functioned. But then after some time, as we go along, it would be very difficult for me to recall what X stands for. So rather than saying X, I would say items, because then I know that whatever is the value of this variable, that represents one of the items that I am talking about. If I give the variable name as weight rather than Y, then I know that what does that variable represent. So keep in mind that whenever you give variable, sometimes out of our own laziness or to become faster, we give the variable names which are very short and very difficult to understand or very difficult to recall later on. We should refrain from doing that. And why we should refrain from doing that? Because once you define the variable, the system will remember those variable names and you will not have to type out the entire thing, because the main laziness comes that do I have to type out a long name every time. So don't worry about that. Once you defined a variable, the Colab notebook, or for that matter any other Python notebook, would remember all those variables, and later on if you just start typing IT, it will show you the options of different variables, so you don't have to really type out most of these things. So that's one of the key principles that we'll follow. So now we are trying to formulate the backpack problem. So I have 8 different items. Each of these items have a weight. Each of these items has a value, and each of these items are available in certain quantity in the house. Now, if there is only one item, so you will come across this term, these terms now very frequently. That is the term as scalar, vector, matrix, and tensor. Okay, so just remember these 4 terms. We'll revisit these things again. So scalar is when you have just one value. So if I say items is equal to A, that becomes a scalar entity because that's only just one value. Then we have a vector where we have an array of values. And I'll show you the matrix will become 2-dimensional values. So for example, when you deal with Excel, it's a matrix because it's 2-dimensional. And if our data has more than 2 dimensions, in data science and machine learning, we call all of those things as tensors. So tensor can be of 3 dimension. So if my data has 3 dimensions, it will be called a tensor of order 3, or it may have 5, it may have 10, it may have 100, doesn't matter. If you have more than 3 dimensions, those things will be called tensors. Okay. So here it's a vector. So if you see here, I have more than one values for items, and this is only on one dimension, which is the item dimension, and that's where items is a vector or an array. Okay, so this A, B, C, D, E, and whenever we represent an array, that will be starting with the bracket signs, this capital bracket. So you have 3 kinds of one is the bracket, then you have the braces, and then you have parentheses. So anything that we put inside the bracket, now the computer or the Python language understands that now I am expecting an array of things. So the moment I see a bracket, that gives a signal to Python that now I'm going to deal with an array. So I have an array of items, I have an array of weight, I have an array of value, I have an array of numbers. Now, there are certain slicing functions available, but I'll go to that. I'll come to some of these things later. Let me right now, in the available time that we have today, focus on the problem formulation. So this would be the first beginning of the formulation, that how do I represent different types of data that I have. So I have data about items, I have data about their weight, value, and numbers. Now I can put all of this data into a single table. And the tables in Python will be dealing with. So if you see here, I imported pandas. So pandas is a library for dealing with what they call as the data frames or the tables, and various operations that we can do on the data frame. So now I put all of these. So you saw this array here because I have not initialized these in the computer right now. So I import here. Then so this sign here will show you that this operation, whatever the operation is given in this particular cell, is being done. So having created an array of each of these items, now I put them into a single data frame. And I take a transpose of that data frame. Don't get again overawed by the new words that I am using. We'll come back to it. So now I am able to get all of these in a tabular form. So I have, so now if you see in this table, the column names are 0, 1, 2, 3, which the system assigns by itself. I can assign a column name to that so that it makes more sense to me. It becomes easier to read. So now I have been able to put that in a column form. Having put that in the column form, now I can start solving the problem much easily. And how do I solve the problem? One of the things we'll say that, okay, every item has certain weight, every item has certain value. So I will start filling my bag by the item. So the first item I will choose will have the highest value by weight. It means that highest value per unit of weight. And that I can find out by dividing the value by the weight. So I find that for each item, and I find which one is the best one. So item number 2, and this is also, you will see that whenever we see the items, the numbers would start from 0. So typically you will count from 1, 2, 3, 4, but in these algorithms you will see that the count starts from 0. So I find the value by weight. That is one small manipulation we do, and then we find out that which one is giving me the highest value for each unit of weight, because my constraint is the weight. So I would like to maximize the value by weight. So I find out which one gives me the highest value per weight, and then we will start seeing that how much I can take it. So we'll take this problem in the class tomorrow. Just keep thinking about it, that not in terms of the programming language, but in terms of common logic, that how should the thief fill their backpack? So we have reached the status that a stage where we are saying that let's see the value per unit of weight, and maybe that should be the first one. What should be the next stage in the optimization process? And that is what the solution to this backpack problem will discuss again tomorrow. Any questions from the session today?
Vinay, this is Prashant. Regarding the Colab and the coding part,
yeah.
I know it's too premature, but in the next class, will you also take through how to use the Colab? Because
yes,
at least for me, the first time I am seeing Colab.
I'll take you step by step. Don't worry about that. But today it was more for me to demonstrate to you. From tomorrow, what we'll do is that I will ask you to open Colab on your own laptop, and then we will, some of these examples will work together. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other question for today? So if there are no questions for today, then again, we'll meet tomorrow at 7. So I would appreciate if all of you join maybe a minute or two earlier so that we can start at sharp 7 tomorrow. Today we lost a few minutes, today being the first day. So you will also have the access to the recording of the session. We'll also have the access to all the notebooks I use, and we'll also have the access to all the PPTs which I use, which I will have it shared through Aditya to you. So if there are no questions for today, then we'll close the session today and we'll meet again tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. You have a good day.
Okay, thank you.